Hey everybody, it's Kyle. I'm going to do a quick video today and share with you a strategy I learned. It's probably been a month and a half ago or so now. So I went to a conference in Florida, a big marketing conference, and over 3.5, 4 days, there was about 20 speakers or so. And ultimately I went there to have an aha moment. Anytime I go to a big conference or anytime I go somewhere, I always take a notepad and paper, and I want to hear something that changes me or makes a huge difference in my life. And over the years, I've had real good luck with that because I think it's because I'm looking for it. Usually you find what you're looking for, so if you look hard enough, you usually find it. And that's a really good point when it comes to lowering stress in your home with your family and your kids. If you're looking for it and if you're constantly searching, you'll find things, right? But anyway, I was at this conference, and over a period of 3.5, 4 days, there's probably 20 to 25 speakers, and many of these individuals you've probably heard of. They're all pretty famous. A couple of them weren't as famous, but some pretty famous speakers who have all written books that was kind of the thing for me, as I'd read many of their books, probably almost all. And it was a really good conference. There was a lot of ups and downs, a lot of information that I was able to garner. But there was one lady, and I wish I could remember her name. I wrote it down, but I don't have it with me right now. I'm driving, obviously. That talked about 3 words that you can use that will help you manage an emotion, any emotion that you have difficulty with. For instance, my wife was very steady, I'll say. She didn't have a lot of ups and downs. She managed her emotions really, really well. And so there weren't a lot of situations where she was overwhelmed. And she was always curious and interested when other people would get overwhelmed. She would watch other ladies who felt a little pressure. Excuse me. They would feel a little pressure, and they would get what she calls frantic. My wife would say, "Oh, that lady's getting frantic and overwhelmed with emotion." And to my wife, that didn't really help the situation. It generally hurt the situation. When someone she knew would get overwhelmed with emotion and frantic, she would go like this: "They're getting frantic," is what she would say. And my wife was really good about not doing that when the tougher it got. And this is something we had trained ourselves to do over the years because we have 2 kids on the autism spectrum and 6 kids total. So she was really good about it. And she never knew this simple 3-word strategy. But when I heard it, it really stuck out at me because my wife passed away over about a little bit over a year ago last month. And I was married to Shelly for 30 years. And we were always together. We never spent more than 3 or 4 days apart. When I would travel, maybe I couldn't wait to be back. I was a big fan of Shelly. She's my sweetheart, right? And we had created a top 1% happy marriage, even through all the difficulties and trials we'd faced. And so now that she's gone and not with me, I get in the evenings, it's tough for me. I get lonely. Interestingly enough, I was struggling with that. All the kids would go to bed and I'd be sitting there, and that is generally when Shelly and I would spend a lot of time chatting, and we'd talk about our family, we'd talk about things that happened during our day. We take a little time to snuggle on each other and love on each other, and I miss that. And I find myself in a state of kind of loneliness in the evening sometimes. And so while I was at this conference, this lady got up there, and this 3-word strategy has changed me. I'm not kidding. It's really made a huge difference for me. And the strategy is simply this. She said when you have a big emotion that you have trouble managing, you just need to say, I don't do, and then whatever that emotion is. And just stick that in your brain when you start to feel it. For instance, my wife would maybe tell some of these ladies who got frantic, I don't do frantic, right? And so when things would get escalated and they couldn't manage their emotions, they would just say, I don't do frantic. And that I believe that's what she would tell them. She can't, obviously, but so I thought, you know what? I'm going to decide I don't do lonely, right? And so after this conference, I'd find myself, missing Shelly in the evenings pretty painfully. And I would say, you know what? I don't do lonely. I'm either going to write about it or I'm going to find something to occupy my time. I'm not just going to sit here because I don't do lonely. I'm going to find something productive to do. And maybe that's just say a quick prayer for comfort, or maybe that's to write about Shelly, which I did a lot of. Maybe that's because it's therapeutic for me. Maybe it's to write my kids a little note, or whatever it is that I can do that's productive. I just don't do lonely. And so since that moment, since I heard her say that, it's really helped me. And obviously there are times where I go ahead and just I don't think it's healthy to never feel those emotions, but I'm a believer that emotions are one of the most powerful things in the world. I mean, emotions make the world go around, right? Love and kindness and caring and compassion are such wonderful emotions, and they connect people and they make the world a wonderful place to live in. But emotions of anger and frustration and hate start wars and kill people and create huge divides between people. So emotions are extremely powerful. So I like the idea of being able to choose which emotions I allow and when. So I won't ever say, don't say, I'm not saying this very well, but I'll never suggest that I always say, I don't do lonely. I'll never suggest that I shouldn't always. I'll never say that forever. I mean, there are times where I need to feel that struggle, but I want to choose those times. I don't want it to be every night of my life. So I want to just leave that with you. It's a pretty simple process. I don't do, and then whatever emotion it is that you have difficulty managing. Maybe it's I don't do impatience, or maybe it's I don't do, like my wife would say, I don't do frantic, or I don't do overwhelmed. Right? That's when I think a lot of people get overwhelmed. I don't do overwhelmed. For me, right now, I don't do lonely. There are other things that I might apply that principle to, but for right now, that's where I'm using it, and hopefully it's helpful for you too. So try it. The emotion that you have trouble managing, just use that term, I don't do, and then whatever that emotion is, and watch what it does for you. Hopefully that's helpful. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.